Yeah. Live from the iFly El Paso studios in El Paso, Texas. It's the WazzyCircus Radio. My guest today is Anthony Vella, owner and founder of the West Texas Paramotor School and a buddy of mine. What up, man?
Hey, thanks, man. I was like so excited to come here. Like this whole week, ever since you asked me, you're like, hey, you want to come and do the podcast on Thursday?
He's full of shit.
I know.
Asking him for six fucking months to do this show.
Dude, I was lit. I was like, I stopped listening to music in the car, but I was just jamming out the whole way here because I'm just pumped, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we were on the live just now talking about for your school and your students, you're doing a keto program so you can show big boys that they can slim up and fly. Is that right?
Yeah. I think it's like really interesting because like there's so many people who want to get into the world of paramotoring, and I think the demographic of people who get into paramotoring are typically older than those who get into skydiving. Like what I noticed when I was doing the skydiving was that there's a lot of young people, maybe in their 20s or 30s, maybe some even like starting at their 18th birthday getting into skydiving. But in paramotoring, the cost to get into paramotoring, even though it's like one of the most affordable ways to fly, it's still really expensive, as you and I both know.
The entry.
So by the time somebody can afford it, they're usually 50 years old. They're not as lean, mean fighting machine as they used to be. And so, I mean, we don't do like a ton of numbers. Like currently the school is still young, relatively young, like 2 years old. And so I feel like, man, when I listen to certain people talk about how they want to be able to fly, it's like paramotoring is physically demanding, like super physically demanding when it comes to taking off and landing. And all that extra weight that a lot of people end up carrying later on in life can end up hurting them. So no, it's an idea that I'm toying with like seeing if I can work with some people. Like I'm by no means a nutritionist or whatever. I'm just kind of taking my own personal journey, see if I can shed some weight, see if it works, and hopefully get people who really, really want to be able to fly, who can't fly safely yet, to a weight that allows them to be able to fly.
So motivation. We have guys do it here all the time. They'll come in with their families.
Yeah.
And like dad won't be able to fly.
Here.
Right? Here.
Yeah, in the tunnel.
260, right? I mean, a lot of guys are over 260. Most guys are over 260.
Yeah.
Right? But you can see it in their eyes. Some guys are broken.
Right.
But some guys are determined, and that guy will be back in a couple months, and he'll be with his kids like, I lost 20 pounds for this, and they're really stoked about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So like last week, or actually it was this week, a guy called me from, I don't know, I forgot what state he called me from, but I spent like 2 hours on the phone with him. The guy is 6'8", 380 pounds.
Good God.
Yeah, it's a big dude. But you can have people who are like, like really struggling and thinking, man, well, 380 pounds, like realistically, you'd want to get down to 250 or lower for it to be ideal. But if you have that, like, the imagination, like it all starts, like for myself included, to be able to get into flying. It's like this just intense dream of being able to run into the sky. But I mean, some of these guys can't even run. I mean,
right. Quick question: the 250 is that engine thrust or is that wing limitation? Because you can just get a big ass cannon, couldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So the 250 for us is like if somebody the heavier somebody gets, factually speaking, the more likely they are to get injured during training. Now you can have, as I'm sure you're well aware, you've probably seen some big dudes who can just like endure and push through it. But statistically speaking, there's going to be far fewer people who are, really heavy who will find training easy. Well, I don't think anybody's going to find it easy, but the weight doesn't help to do that. But like you were saying about like, is there like an actual limitation on the equipment that prevents people who are heavy from being able to fly?
Right.
And the answer is, well, kind of. So like in the world of paramotoring, we fly these rinky-dink two-stroke engines that are, problematic. They've come down in weight a lot over the years. And so the solution, like you said, is, just try and, get their wing loading much lower. I mean, higher, so that the thrust will then still allow them to climb. But we're also facing another problem here in El Paso, being that we're already at 4,000 feet. So the molecular density of the air, it makes it so that they're going to have to run even faster. and they're going to be moving faster in the air when it comes to a landing. So if let's like hypothetically speaking, if you were 180 pounds, you could tolerate the speed that comes with the altitude here. But I think everything gets easier if you weigh less.
These landings here are fast, dog. Even in the wind, you're still coming in hot, son.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of glide. So it's like it never ends, and then you're on the ground running.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's nutty.
Yeah.
So learning here, I couldn't imagine learning here. It must be a little tougher.
Yeah, I mean, so the majority of people who learn, a lot of people when they get into paramotoring will be drawn to certain schools in ideal locations. But the reality is like, then everybody goes back to their hometown where they're going to be flying, and it's like nothing like they want. So for example, when I learned how to fly paramotors, I learned in Austin. And,
Did you?
Yeah.
Where?
At Lone Star Paramotor.
Who had that then? Where was that at?
Ron Tarrant. So it's actually kind of like outside of Austin. It's a place called Kyle.
Kyle. Okay.
Yeah. Kyle. It's weird.
Is that the Nirvana guys?
So Kit Harington, and Chris, they all know Ron, but now they've got Pterodactyl, which if somebody was going to learn in Austin, I would go to Kit and Chris, and those guys are like super cool. But no, it Lone Star Paramotor, and we were supposed to learn in Austin, but the weather was all wacky, so we ended up going to Galveston, out to the beach in Galveston.
Beautiful.
But the problem is you've got this. It's almost like the wind tunnel. You've got you've got this perfect environment to learn, and it's great. I was watching your boys shred, and I imagine the day that they get into skydiving, they're just going to be brilliant.
They're going to be over it.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the tunnel or whatever. Yeah. But no, when somebody goes to learn how to fly a paramotor, if you're in these perfect conditions, so the majority of people who are learning how to fly paramotors do end up going to the beach. If you look around, at the more popular schools, even if it's in Florida, Aviator PPG has become one of the biggest paramotoring schools out there. They're at virtually sea level. And then for myself, when I was at Galveston, of course I was at sea level. I was on the beach. And then I came back here to El Paso, and it's ooh, whoa, you're running so much faster. And the biggest thing that makes paramotoring challenging once you leave an environment like the beach is because those coastal winds give you such perfect laminar conditions, and it's you could essentially suck at paramotoring, only to find out that you suck when you get home, because there's so much more to it.
That is the story of my life.
Yeah.
We would go down to Port Aransas and fly for a couple days straight.
Port Aransas?
Port Aransas, it's straight south of Austin. It's near Corpus Christi, Galveston.
Oh, nice,
Same thing. And we'd fly, rip the beach all day, up and down, smooth laminar air. You guys, the air's coming off the ocean. The ocean's flat. So the wind is flat and smooth. Right? Okay, they're good out there. I'm actually still running the tunnel while I'm sitting here.
Multitasking machine.
Yeah. But when I got back to Austin, and it's called the hill country.
Oh yeah.
Right? So the wind's coming at you crazy, and it's
rolling over everything, and
oh my god, it's so hard to launch. It was terrible. But you go to the beach, you think you're king.
Yeah.
Right? You're I'm a boss at this. I can carry a motor. It's crazy.
Right.
Learning your field, there was something about launching here. It's a little you do have to move a little bit faster, and I'm not that fast of a runner.
Right.
But the wind isn't very shifty. It's kind of smooth up by my house.
Well, that's common in the mornings, right? So
that's the main time I fly, yeah.
Right. In paramotoring, unlike skydiving, which was really interesting to me, when somebody was you can skydive at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's well, get out of here. You're serious? In paramotoring,
weird, right?
In paramotoring, you just won't. But
Well, Dell says we can.
Well, yeah, of course he does. Jeez, I'm crow. Del Shanzi.
I didn't even mean to bring Dell up. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's a funny thing, that man. Yeah. But when it comes to, paramotoring is essentially a sibling to paragliding. But in paragliding, there's so much more tolerance for risky environmental conditions, like with the weather. for example, like the paragliders, being that they don't have the motor, they don't have a thrust device that can get them up in the air. They're dependent on moving air, like thermals or ridge lift, things that we intentionally avoid because we have the power of the paramotor, which affords us an opportunity to fly in buttery smooth air,
right, where they need the wind,
right. But it's like in, I mean, I suppose any discipline where you can push pedal to the metal, or you can take a more conservative route and stay safe. And it just so happens to be that in paramotoring, the safer the conditions you fly in, the more enjoyable it is. I mean, I can't imagine anybody who's like, no, I prefer turbulent conditions. It's like, no way,
dude. Well, I'm self-trained, people, because I have a bunch of skydives, and I thought I could just do it. So it took me years.
It's an interesting topic.
Years, yeah. Man, just I forget what was it?
Well, you were talking about how you're self-trained.
Yeah, but before that, what were we just talking about?
Del Shansi, the beach. Lift paragliding and paramotoring, and how turbulent condition flying when it's bumpy.
Okay. So I never learned how to forward launch. It was such a weird thing for me. I couldn't even fathom it. I learned reverse launching, but I learned reverse launching, speed flying parachutes, not paragliders.
You're running them off of mountains or something?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, all day.
Oh, that's cool.
But we just used the rear risers to steer.
That's how paramotoring started. That's how paragliding started. It was like skydiving type stuff.
And then we just turn around, grab the toggles, and go, right? Yeah. So I was used to reverse launches.
Right.
So if the wind wasn't above 7, I couldn't fly.
Yeah.
And 7 was too low because it's it's hard to struggle. So I only flew in 10 to 12 was I wouldn't even go out unless there was a 10.
Yeah.
And I would fly in garbage all the time, but I didn't know. I was just happy I was flying.
Well, in a skydive canopy.
No, my paramotor.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about on my paramotor.
Oh, man.
Because I couldn't forward launch.
Right.
I could only reverse. So I would only go out if it was 10 plus.
Right.
And then, 13, 15 is too high.
And what did that result with? Like, ultimately, it was bumpier conditions, I'm sure.
It was bumpier, but I got to fly.
Yeah.
And very soft landings, and I got used to bumps. So now that I have the Maverick you helped me get, and with the freaking Moster on it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It's like a ninja on your back. Like, the launches are easy. You know, so I can fly in 0 wind. Now I can understand the butter wind and why everybody wants no wind. But I never knew what that was before. Right. Because I couldn't forward launch because I didn't get training.
Right. You know? Yeah, and that's it's like a interesting topic. Is like over the years I've had people who've reached out to me and they're like, is training important? And the answer is like for most people it is, but there are a select few, like people like yourself, or there are some others like Matt's a mutual friend of ours, a mechanical god. He's just really skilled with these engines, but he taught himself. But he has that sort of mindset that you and him share, where you can probably pace yourself to some extent, because if you're the sort of person who doesn't comprehend the risk involved of putting this extremely dangerous, the potential danger of a paramotor behind your back with how fast that propeller's spinning, it has certainly chopped a lot of people, like extremities, fingers,
faces, everything.
Yeah, just like chop things off. So some people can learn how to fly paramotors, but it's a very small percentage. And if anybody has any sort of doubts, then you probably want to get an instructor to
taking
guide you through it.
Taking the long road, man, I would go ahead and just pay for the damn training. Just do it. Like, for when Jackson is very close, my 13-year-old, he's going to be flying soon. Yeah. I will be paying you to teach him. I'm not going to self-train him.
Oh, right on, man.
Well, just because I've been around your school, and like, I like you teach, the way you teach, the safety and the clipping in, the cadence and shit. I had to learn on my own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to have somebody walk you through that is so good.
Well, because the expectation for somebody when they're learning how to skydive or fly a paramotor is that they can be safe doing it. Essentially, an instructor is somebody who's there to somewhat provide them with the mental reassurance that they're going to be okay while learning how to do something that's so crazy, whether it is skydiving or paramotoring. It's like you're setting yourself up. We're not birds. Like, we're so high up that it's kind of crazy. So for me with training, like, I suppose I pride myself the most is not so much in, don't get me wrong, I definitely teach the technical aspects of it, like the physics and the how to fly. But for so many people, it's overcoming that fear. Like, there's a lot of fear involved with it, just like people who skydive. Like myself, when I went to go out to Austin area to go learn how to fly with Jared, he and I both were having like nightmares leading up to it. Like,
and you had a bunch of tunnel time, and you knew how to fly.
And flying paramotors,
and you know how to fly
hundreds and hundreds of hours of flying paramotors, and I was still nervous.
Yep.
Yeah. It still seems kind of crazy.
So like here we go with an instructor. You have a guy with headphones on you and a radio, and when you take off, he's like, relax, arms up, engine
chill
smooth,
out,
all that shit. Right? He's in your ear. I had no one.
Right.
Dude, I'm just gunning it. I was scared, fucking my heart in my throat, like, leaning back in the harness, thinking it was so scary. But
you're massively advantaged. Like, even for you to go from skydiving to paramotoring, it's like when I think about the ideal sort of student, if somebody skydives, like, there's going to be some things that we need to make sure are clear with how much inputs you put in.
Right.
But the way that they behave is relatively similar. Like the paraglider in a skydiving canopy.
Right. Kinda. But a perfect example, Mudbug. Shout out Mudbug.
Oh yeah.
He saw me flying the DZ. He asked me what was up with it. I let him put the engine on his back a couple times and walk around with it. Yeah. I showed him how to forward launch and reverse kite for like 2 days. He bought a rig. He's been flying ever since.
Yeah.
So if you have a friend that'll teach you for free, that's even better.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, that's hard to come by.
And exactly. Like, if you know somebody, like, even to your listeners, if you know somebody who knows how to fly a paramotor and they seem like somebody who has your best interest in mind, then it's not necessarily a bad route.
Right.
But not everybody knows somebody who flies paramotors.
Right. Or has the engine they were willing to let you put on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, that's a big risk.
Jeff Gowie out in Austin, if you guys will get hold of Jeff, and then Ryan Gloka is out there, and if y'all want to come out here, we got Anthony Vella.
That's right.
Let's go back.
And a great tunnel. So you can come out here, learn paramotoring, and in our off time, we'll come over here to iFly.
Yeah, hey, for sure. They're shredding right now. They're taking classes. I don't know if I should be taking classes.
Man.
Yo, the paraglider, they search out thermals, they search out ridge soaring, okay? Now, we put on the paramotor and we avoid those things. Why? Is the extra weight, is our wings different? Could we ridge soar?
Yeah, for sure. And I have.
Right. Yeah. I think I saw a video of you trying to get over by the
and failed. I've so like with partial success. I mean, so paramotor gliders. So an interesting thing is like, okay, so skydiving canopies are different from paramotor wings, and paramotor wings are different from paragliding wings. I mean, you can fly; they are somewhat interchangeable. Like, you can fly a paragliding wing with a paramotor, but it's not what it's intended to do. And the difference is, the key difference between a paramotor wing and a dedicated paragliding wing is that the paragliding wing maximizes on efficiency. So it's all about lift.
Right.
Where the paramotor wing is a lot more about speed. So, but it comes at a cost of giving up the lift. And it also, our gliders, because one other like staple difference between paramotor wings and paraglider wings is that paramotor wings have reflex technology. It's one of the things that, from an anatomy perspective of our gliders, is just totally different from paraglider wing. Reflex technology is essentially the technology built into a paramotor wing that allows the trailing edge of the glider to come up in the back. If it were to surge forward too far, that would then create a collapse. So it's like...
Is that... But I thought Dell said you can't push a wing up.
Oh, freaking Dell. It's so funny. A funny story about Dell. Like, Dell is the individual who would throw reflex under the bus at any opportunity. In fact, he calls it hoax flex.
Hoax flex, yeah.
Yeah, every glider that is not a Dominator, which is a spin-off of a U-turn, which is a glider manufacturer. A long time ago, he got a deal with U-turn. They rebranded it. It's a U-turn glider. They just put Dominator on it, and because he's so self-absorbing, egotistical. If you don't fly that specific wing, you're flying a death trap. That's what he also calls them.
Like, all right, so guys, the paramotor world is completely different than the skydiving world. It is savage, and they talk. Imagine Imagine the owners of PD making a video like Micron is a death machine. Anybody that flies that's an idiot.
Right.
If
Or
you don't
Icarus,
fly this gear, dude. Paramotor World is out of this world. Del Sean's the best paramotor pilot on Earth. That's what he calls himself.
Allegedly.
Right? Allegedly. You guys check out his videos. I hate to send people to it, but you gotta hear him talk shit.
And he is really good at flying. Like he's extremely talented.
Okay.
Del Shanzi.
And his kid is too. Trevor?
No. So Trevor's actually a nephew. Really? I really like Trevor.
Yeah. Trevor's dope.
Yeah. So Trevor, like I guess was taken under the wing of Del when he started the school. Which is his school is called Super Training, and they go out to Galveston.
I think do super training
to do super training out there at the beach. But Trevor eventually reached a point where other people were offering to let him fly other brands of gliders. He had served his uncle faithfully for so long, but eventually when he was starting to try out these other gliders, he was objectively finding that these other gliders were really impressive, like super impressive.
Right.
Now, the reason why Del is capable of making things look so awesome on a Dominator is just like in the skydiving world, he overloads it like crazy. So like the wing loading is so high.
Got you. Yeah. Right.
High.
Yeah, he has a high wing loading.
Super high wing loading.
Yeah.
And so then, you can whip it around. The wing takes on characteristics that make it more agile and faster and more exciting to fly it. But it's really old technology. Okay. And ultimately, so that Dominator is a classic paraglider design.
The paraglider setup is not reflex.
It's not. Is
that what allows him to fly during the midday heat in Utah? Or whatever?
No,
because he's on the video flying like anybody can do it if he had a Dominator.
No, but because if you're heavily loaded on a paraglider, you're far less likely. The heavier loaded you are on a paraglider, the less likely you are to take a collapse.
So this is my reason for the ridge soaring question. Why don't we ridge soar if we have more weight with the engine? Because our wings are a little bit different.
No, because I think it's because if you're lightly loaded, which just because we're on paramotor wings doesn't mean that we're necessarily highly loaded on it.
Because the wing takes account.
You're still supposed to be within the weight range of the glider. But the reason that you don't is just because if a reflex glider, the thing is if a reflex glider does take a collapse, it takes longer to recover than a classic paraglider, like the Dominator, for example.
Or my SEMA K2. I have a SEMA. It's a paraglider that I've used for paramotoring.
That's your old SEMA thing, right?
Yeah, the yellow.
Because you use an APCO.
I got the easy lift
now.
Yeah. But I had the SEMA before that.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, dude, if you watch any paragliding video, you'll see 5 of them.
Right.
Right? Seriously. So it's a paraglider.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's way different than the paramotor wing.
Right.
It's more slidey.
Is it?
I think so.
But is it like mushy in the controls? Like, do you feel as connected to it? Like when you make an input on the SEMA, does it respond to you as well as when you're flying the APCO Easy Lift R?
No, the Easy Lift is a better paramotor machine. The SEMA I feel will flat spin on me easy.
Right.
Where like the other one kind of cups the air and holds the air.
Right. And so the other thing about like a paramotor and why you wouldn't want to fly it like midday in thermic conditions or up towards a mountain is generally people who fly paramotors, if they're anything like me, like I find the most pleasure in flying a paramotor when I'm like right down next to the ground.
All day.
And some people are like very against that because of course, granted, like they say, altitude is life or some other...
Altitude is boring.
Altitude is very boring. I genuinely don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I'd much rather be just like, in your dreams, I imagine most people when they're dreaming about flying, they're like going between the trees and kind of just like, like they have this superpower. So ultimately, yeah. But if you were to take a collapse at a low altitude, you're in.
Yeah.
Effed.
Yeah, you're going in.
So that's why, like, I think there's such an emphasis on respecting the time windows. It's kind of like, could you fly a paramotor midday? Yeah, sure. But you're a lot more likely to take a collapse whether you're on a paraglider or whether you're on a paramotoring paraglider.
Do the paragliders follow the same time constraints as we do, or they'll fly all
paragliders?
day? Yeah.
No, yeah, they. It depends on their skill level. Like they still are constrained to certain conditions. And during certain times of the year, like here in the wintertime, if they have like a relatively steady breeze that's in the perfect direction, man, I'm like, I despise. I think paragliding is great, but I also despise it. Like I don't have the patience for that. Like paramotoring allows me to go fly whenever I want, but yeah, if somebody's like incredibly skilled, and for those of you who haven't seen like the Red Bull X Alps videos on YouTube, phenomenal like skills. Those sorts of people are flying way outside of boundaries that they should ever be, that anybody else should be flying in.
Right.
But yeah, so paragliders, in order to actually accomplish flying, they have to get outside of these windows usually.
Right.
So
is it safe for us to venture? I guess you're saying pilot skill. That's what it comes down to. So a second ago, before I put thought to it, I thought we were overweight in the parachutes, but of course the parachutes make allotments for the engine. So that's a dumb statement, right? Because I was thinking
they factor in the weight.
So if you're flying if you're paragliding your paramotor wing, you're underloading it.
Probably. I mean, not for me necessarily, because I overload my gliders.
Okay.
And the reason that I overload my gliders is because I do keep myself within those windows of flying. Like, and I'm very strict with the conditions, because essentially, if for those people who want to get into flying paramotors, and they're like, how do I do it? Because remember, like the beginning of this conversation, it was talked about this fear, and it's like, okay, well, what's the fear of? The fear is of death, or I mean, usually it's death or some serious injury. Well, how do you avoid that? Well, you can do a really good job at avoiding that if you fly when you eliminate the variable of the weather.
Just like base jumping.
If you fly during the middle of the day, the problem isn't what the forecast tells you. The problem is the things that kick up that aren't forecasted,
right?
Like thermals. Like you just don't know. If some invisible column, right, exactly, this invisible column of rising air, a strong one, is going to come in and just ruin your day or end your life.
Right. Kyle Oakley or OG?
Yeah, Oakley.
Oakley put it best, dude. Like I could kind of understand thermals, but he said it's like a bubble.
It is, yeah.
It's like a bubble of hot air that's just rising up. And that's why they say column.
Yeah.
Because that bubble's going up behind it. It leaves a wake of spinning air. Yeah. It's rising. There's falling air.
Yeah.
And that's just a thermal you can't see.
At the core of it. Yeah, at the core of it, it's the rising air. But it all starts with a bubble that heats on the ground. Very similar to like when you put a pot of water on your stove.
And you see the bubble.
It starts to form a bubble. Mm-hmm. Now, these bubbles are big. Like they could be maybe like 100 or 150 feet wide. Maybe 50 feet. It depends on the size of them. They vary, but you can't see them. But then all of a sudden, some sort of thing will come along and release this bubble that starts this column of rising air. So, for example, it could be, and also contrast on the ground. So, like darker patches heat up faster than lighter patches. So, if you were to drive over, or if you were flying along on your paramotor and you fly over, like late in the day, a parking lot. And it's like, let's say an inactive parking lot, but there may be a big bubble of heated air pulling over that parking lot. But as soon as a semi-truck comes and pulls through the parking lot, it disrupts the air and all of a sudden releases it up into the sky.
Wow.
And then that thermal doesn't just stay there, really. They can take on, they can move along the ground and they can bend. They're not necessarily going straight up. They can bend. And once again, these are things that you just simply don't see. Like if you were to watch like on a hot summer day, one big thing you'll see is like dust devils. Those dust devils don't just stay there. They're moving along the desert. And same thing with the thermal. The thermals are less aggressive than dust devils. They're less sharp.
Oh, yeah. Dust devils.
A dust devil will rip you out of the sky, just like skydiving, I think.
Dust devil will break your neck when landing.
Yeah.
I've seen shout out to Brandon Chenard, man. It happened to my buddy in Dallas. And he's a beast swooper, badass pilot. Coming on final, Dust Devil picked him up, spun him up, and slammed him into the ground, son. Yeah. I've seen a couple tandems in San Marcos, bro. You were out there. That ground's all crazy.
Yeah.
Tandems coming across the ground and like full wing collapses.
Right.
Like midday jumping sucks. You can do it skydiving, but it still sucks.
Yeah, you feel it.
Midday sucks.
Yeah, you feel it, but you have so for me, I come from a very conservative background, being that like I'm aware of the risk of what the paraglider does. So it took some getting used to feeling those sharp thermals on the skydiving the parachute. But yeah, I trust in it. I trust in it.
How was your first skydive?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that tandem that I was with you? Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
that was your first jump.
That was my very first jump. You were there for it.
Yeah, that's fucking dope. Yeah. So the jump is by shooting it in Oakland or some shit. What's it called in your video?
Yeah, some sort of clickbaity shit.
They got so mad about that video.
Yeah, that was funny.
yeah. So first solo was in San Marcos.
Yeah. So I had to go to San Marcos, do another tandem. You're supposed to do 2, but they gave me the credit for the one I did here.
Right.
And then I did my first solo. Yeah, out there with
Nick.
Some new guy, really cool guy. Gosh, I connected with him on social media. Can't remember his name. Went on to
fucked up.
I know, it's right there. Oh man,
goddamn skydiving instructor, man.
I'm a fool. But yeah, no, that first jump, and it's crazy because I came here to the tunnel with Jared to go like learn all the stuff. But it is kind of crazy when you end up jumping out of the plane. It's like, granted, I never failed anything, so that's my one bit of bragging on this podcast, is that I didn't have to repeat any of the courses
because you trained with me.
That's right. No, seriously, it was so helpful. And
I know.
Super helpful coming to the tunnel. Just to trust in yourself, to know that you can control your body, fly your body, as you say.
Yo, so the feeling of that parachute falling with no engine to take you back around, like, because I came up in the skydiving, so I'm used to you have one shot at it.
Motor out, yeah. You're like motor out every time.
You came from the other way where you don't like it, you go back around. You're used to being able to. So that one shot feeling, what is that like? What did it feel like for you?
Okay, this is where I don't want the IRS to listen to me, but I wrote off some of my skydiving training.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm not going to get in trouble for this one. No,
no one's listening.
But legitimately, no. I mean, because in skydiving, you're like forced to practice a motor route basically every single time. Mm-hmm. It's my justification. Like it makes me a better paramotor pilot, even though our glide slopes are different. Like a glide slope on a parachute is much more aggressive.
Right.
It like what 1 to 2 or like
nothing
2 1 like yeah.
We're 10 to 1, 9 to 1.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
maybe like 8. I think sometimes the manufacturers stretch it to try and make them seem more efficient.
So that means for every foot vertical, we go 8 feet horizontally.
Yeah.
These things do not come down, people.
Yeah, I mean, well, they do, but the longer, the better the glide slope of whatever it is that you're piloting, the harder it is to predict.
Oh yeah.
So like pilots flying an airplane have several advantages over us because they have pitch control. We don't have pitch control. It's kind of like our pitch control. In the absence of having pitch control, we have to turn and change our course to like try and turn back at just the right time to get to that spot just to the right altitude.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty confusing. But the benefit is because I've been flying paramotors for so long, I inevitably had a lot of motor outs along the way because I suck at motor maintenance, or just monitoring my damn fuel level.
Right. Oh god.
Or you get out there and you're having such a good time that you just.
How many times you ran out of fuel?
Ran out of fuel maybe like 4 or 5 times or something like that. Maybe 10. I don't know. But
how many motor outs?
Probably like 10.
10. What fuel? What else have you had?
Fuel, spark plug.
Spark plug went bad, or
no. I've got a video on. I happened to be filming it. Went on this camping trip out to Kilburn Hole, fantastic place out here in the middle of nowhere, volcano, 6 miles wide. And I go out there for a camping trip with a couple of the other paramotor guys, and I take off. I'm climbing out. And all of a sudden, it just goes. I'm like 2,000 feet up, and I go. The motor just goes boom. And I'm like, oh shit. And so, fortunately, like I like nailed my landing, like right next to the RV. But the spark plug, so there's a faulty cylinder head, where the threading for where you screw the spark plug in was weak or something like that, and the pressure of it blew the spark plug out and made a huge explosion. Leandra, my wife, was filming it from the ground, and you could hear it. I was really far away, and she's just recording, like just happened to pick up the camera and record me flying around. And then you hear boom, like out in the distance. And so, yeah, thankfully I had that glide ratio, that the glide slope for a paraglider. But yeah, that was one of them. And then also, like, if I was wearing a hoodie one day, and the older designs on the Maverick, so don't fly with a hoodie with yours, because it can cover, not because of the propeller. I mean, obviously that's a concern.
Cover the air box,
exactly. So it suffocated the engine.
And you know what? Somebody on one of Trevor Gott's, one of his friends, had the same problem, and they came back. Tucker Gott, yeah. I'm sorry, it's been a while since. But one of his friends, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, and they figured it was the hoodie went over the air box.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the hoodie could get back there.
Yeah, and with the modern airbox, so like yours is interchangeable. You could get the new airbox if you wanted to fly with a hoodie. I don't think that I could get it back there on mine. We essentially have the same exact motor. They just swapped out the airboxes, made it a little more difficult for something to get under there and suffocate the engine.
It went under it.
Yeah. It just went under and plugged it.
Yeah, that's it. Basically. Okay, I thought it was covering it. I was like, how did they get over all that? No, I can see how we can get under it.
But really, like, the number one thing with a motor out is going to be, the number one thing that causes a motor out in paramotoring is probably the carburetor. Because once again, we go back to flying these, we don't have EFI or electronic fuel injection on paramotors, which is like what our cars have. When we go out to our cars in the morning and you go to start it up, you can count on it starting. When we start our paramotors, it might take a few pulls if it's been sitting for a while. But also, there's a lot of things like so they will say that anybody who learns how to fly a paramotor eventually or inevitably becomes a mechanic. Yeah, and you have to learn like the nuances or how to tinker with the motor just a little bit to keep it running. And so throughout the year, like your paramotor right now, tuned for winter, if it's running right, it won't be running right once it starts to warm up because our molecular density changes. So the engine will be taking in more air than it needs. Something like that. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not the motor guy.
Matt is the motor guy.
Matt, if you're in the comments,
Matt, whatever it is, yeah, you got to change. Wait, I think it's less fuel in the winter because the air is thicker. More fuel.
So you need the correct ratio.
Yeah, whatever it is.
There's more air in the wintertime, so then you need more fuel to match it. And then in the summertime, with the less air, you need less fuel.
Otherwise, it's like flooding.
Right, exactly.
Fucking crazy shit, man.
Right. I can't wait for the day when paramotors are like, more user-friendly.
The electric ones.
Oh, yeah. Like the SP150, I think it's called. Yeah, the SP150 or SP140.
Oh, by Facebook. Bye. Later, Facebook. The whole show will be up in a week or two. This week was Skydive, SDC Matrix out of Chicago. Monday it will be TJ Langren. The week after that is Dusty Shaw. Then we will look for Anthony Vella and whoever else I can get. Support us at Patreon. WazzyCircus Radio at Patreon. Hit us up. Hey, come see me at iFly El Paso. Yo, I got them hours for cheap, baby boy. Come holler at me. You want to learn how to sit fly? I got you. You need that head down? I got you. Layouts. Dynamic. I'm just fucking with you. All right, y'all have a good night. Check out Anthony Vella, West Texas Paramotor, and come see me. If you sign up for his class, I got 10 minutes of free tunnel time. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that.
They're coming.
I'm just kidding.
The ground's shaking. I can feel them coming.
Y'all go watch us fly. Love. I fly El Paso. Anthony Vella. All right. So, what were we saying before we said goodbye? I had a question for you. Just as cool, huh? But you have a podcast.
Yeah, man.
Paramotor podcast.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, I was just saying how like I want to get back into it. I just sent out a microphone to somebody in Michigan, I think. Well, man, I don't remember. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be recording with him. And funny story with that guy, like he flew his paramotor. Once you get a paramotor, you want to like do all these fun things, and things will tempt you with a paramotor because you can go anywhere and basically do anything. Yeah. And I mean, so ideally you stay within the lot to some extent. But he goes over to a high school when the school was like on a weekend, so it was closed, and he wants to fly through the goalpost. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Guy flies into the goalpost.
Oh, fucker.
And it takes the whole goalpost down.
Oh, no. Is he okay?
The funny thing, yeah, he's okay. Yeah. So the funny thing is the glider that he was flying was my first glider. He bought it from Clint, and Clint bought it bought it from me. Well, he didn't buy it from me. It became his all of a sudden in one instance when he flew into my glider on the ground with his paramotor and the propeller like shredded it to pieces.
Right. And he got it fixed and then sold it.
He got it fixed and sold it to that guy.
From Clint Tamales.
Yeah, man. You don't know where that's been.
Don't buy a fucking thing from Clint.
Yeah.
So he flew into the post, dude.
Yeah. He flew into the goalpost, like went down on the ground pretty hard, but he was okay. I mean, eventually he was okay. I think he had to do some like therapy and stuff like that. But he's all good. He's back to flying, and then he ended up buying a much more advanced wing from Clint. Really,
fucking
Clint, man, he'll get you.
Oh, Clint Tamales.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So he got caught.
Yeah.
Was it on video?
Yeah. He filmed it on his own helmet camera, and the guy flying behind him got the the B-roll or the outside camera footage.
That's some sketchy shit.
Yeah.
Because you could swing. I don't know about hitting the field goals, depending on how the bleachers were and all that.
Well, his wingtip caught it. His wingtip caught just one of the uprights, and then it just kind of threw him down into the ground. So, like, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and the guy's older too. He's like 50 or I don't know.
So you send mics to people so you can interview them?
Yeah, man. So like we use a program called TriCast. I can fill you all in about it, but basically it allows you to connect. You can use this microphone, have this crispy audio that you're getting right now, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And then still, ideally, you don't have to buy like a super expensive microphone. There are some like more economical microphones that you can send out to guests who are in different locations. So like, you shoot a message to PD, be like, hey, do you guys want to
do an interview?
Do an interview for just like an hour. They're most likely going to be like, hell yeah. And so that's how basically I started my podcast was first, it was just the local guys shooting the shit basically. Right. And then people found it entertaining to hear losers talking on a microphone that ultimately like manufacturers like the biggest names in the sport, like Parajet, speaking with Gilo Cardozo, who's the owner who flew to Mount Everest with Bear Grylls, and hearing about those experiences, or Dudek paragliders, like the nicest paragliding manufacturer, or people who do like these insane feats, like flying to 23,000 feet above the ground on their paramotor, or 6,000 miles distance. And we had all these people. One guy, the guy who flew 6,000 miles, actually flew from San Diego all the way to El Paso, Texas on his paramotor during his adventure, stopped at our field that we fly from, came to the house, recorded a podcast, and then continued on his way for the 6,000 mile paramotor adventure.
No way, dude.
Yeah, man, crazy stuff. Recorded with a guy who flew into a power line and got electrocuted. Like a ton of fun stuff. Yeah, so we're able to do that. We've been able to have like these cool conversations because we're able to reach out to people from abroad, just like with you. Like when you get these skydivers coming in here, fortunately they want to come to the tunnel and get some time. But so it kind of brings them to you. But for us, like
if I didn't have this, it was tough. In Austin, it was a little easier. No. It was actually tougher in Austin, to say the truth. It was just locals and stuff. Here, I got people coming from all over the world.
Right. Because you guys got such good prices.
They're bringing them to me. So and you're here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I came all the way. I flew my paramotor 6,000 miles to get here today, man.
Well, right on, man. Hey, we're gonna wrap this up. Anthony Vella, dude. Okay, so we're thinking about coming to El Paso, and I'm stalking every El Paso Paramotor video.
Yeah.
Cool. I see you guys are taking off from that field and you're doing silly shit over there. So I find the field on Google Maps, like satellite picture, and then I go out there to go fly one day.
Yeah.
And I forgot my helmet, and I was like, "Fuck!" I was about to leave, and then you walked by. It was fucking cool.
And I offered you my helmet,
and you did offer me the helmet. And I was like, "Fuck that," because I didn't know if the Fresh Breeze was gonna get off the ground anyway.
It probably wouldn't.
And I know. And then eventually, hanging out with you, going to your school, I buy the Maverick, and now I can take off at will. It's super fun. Fly with Matt. You guys got the whole crew. There's like 9 guys out here.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe even more if you count the Las Cruces crew, like Matt.
Yeah, like Matt and all those
Steve
guys.
Jensen and
what a fucking magic place, dude.
It is. It's
phenomenal. I want to keep it a secret.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, a lot of people come here because the airspace, it's like so freeing. You don't have to worry. Like you can go anywhere. And you can even maybe go a little bit to the places you're not supposed to go because nobody knows the rules. No, I'm kidding. Follow your rules. Part 103.
FAR 103. Hey guys, WazzyCircus Radio. Check us out. YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff. Anthony Vella, give him your Instagram, give him all your stuff.
Yeah. Facebook. You can find me on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find me at Anthony K. Vella.
Spell it.
V is in Victor. ELLA.
Till next time, keep your head on the swivel and hook that shit, baby.
Thank you for having me.
What time is it? Did I get you out of here on time?
Oh, man.